AITA for calling out my wife in front of her entire family with one sentence? My fork froze halfway between my plate and my mouth when I heard those words come out of her. It was not just what she said. It was how she said it, with that crooked little smile, with that playful clink of her wine glass, as if she were telling a harmless joke instead of driving a wedge straight into my chest in front of her whole family. Now that is an old school man, Vanessa said without looking at me. Not like what I have at home. The dining table at my sister-in-law Rachel's house felt so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. My mother-in-law Stella let out a soft gasp, the kind where you cannot tell if it is a scolding or amusement. Rachel's husband, a firefighter named Bobby, raised his eyebrows to his hairline. Our friend Nick, who had been the one to bring up the topic of the famous boss, turned the color of his napkin. I did not say anything. Not yet. I placed my fork on the plate gently, as if I were putting out a candle without wanting to wake anyone. I wiped my mouth, picked up my glass of water, took a sip, and while everyone was still waiting for me to explode, to turn red, to kick over my chair like in a soap opera, I simply turned to look at her. Calm. Measured. You know what, Van? I said, in the same soft voice she had used. I spend my time thinking about things too. For example, I would love to see your sister Rachel sitting in this house. In your place. Bobby choked on a sip of beer and coughed so hard he knocked over the salt shaker. Rachel, my sister-in-law, her eyes wide as saucers, covered her mouth with both hands. But I swear on my mother's life I saw a little smile escape from behind her fingers. Stella made the sign of the cross. Nick did not know where to look, and Vanessa froze. The little smile she had before was wiped clean off her face, like when the power goes out in a house. She looked at me as if a complete stranger had just sat down in her husband's chair. What did you just say? She whispered, her voice raspy. You heard me perfectly, I answered. I am just returning the courtesy. But for this to make sense, I have to go back. I have to tell you how we got to that table. How a man who grew up believing that enduring is loving learned the hard way that enduring just makes you invisible. My name is Marcus, but everyone at the shop calls me Mark. I am 36 years old. I was born in a tough neighborhood in South Phoenix and learned to get my hands in an engine before I could write my full name. My old man, may he rest in peace, was a mechanic in a small shop in the industrial area, and I grew up holding wrenches instead of toys. By 22, I had my own little shop. By 28, I had 3 employees and a contract with a fleet of vans. At 32, I met Vanessa. I met her because her Camry broke down one Sunday on the Loop 101, and I was just driving by in my pickup truck. I got out, gave her a hand, and she looked at me like an angel with grease-covered hands had just arrived. She laughed a lot that day. She told me I smelled like gasoline and that she liked it. We got married a year and a half later at a simple but beautiful party in a garden in Gilbert, with barbecue, country music until 4 in the morning, and my mother-in-law crying with emotion. The first 3 years were the closest thing to happiness I had ever known. Vanessa worked in the human resources department of a logistics company. I opened the shop every morning at 6. We would meet up at night, eat whatever was around, watch shows in the living room, and on Sundays we would go have breakfast at the diner with my mother-in-law or with Rachel. Then came the promotion, and with the promotion came him, Julian Mitchell, Mr. Mitchell, my boss, as Vanessa started to say with increasing frequency, as if the title were a medal. At first, it was just office talk. The boss had closed $1 million deal. The boss had said something funny in the meeting. The boss had given bottles of wine to the whole team for Christmas. I would nod along while serving the beans because I was glad she was happy. I have never been a jealous person by nature. My grandfather used to say that a jealous man has too many ghosts and not enough guts. But the comments started to change in tone. From my boss said, it became Julian thinks. From they gave us gifts at the office, it became Julian gave me. And then came the silences, the glances at her phone. The I am tired when I wanted to hug her when I got home. The first time I realized something was rotting inside was a Wednesday night. I had spent 12 hours under a Freightliner truck with a bent chassis. I came home smelling of paint thinner and exhaustion, wanting only one thing, to hug my wife for 5 minutes and sleep. I walked into the kitchen. She was standing in front of the fridge with the door open, staring inside as if an answer lay within. I came up behind her and put a hand on her waist. Gently. She moved forward an inch, just 1 inch. But to me, it felt like she had shoved me. I am exhausted, Mark. Not today, she said without turning around. Van, it is a hug. It is 15 seconds. I do not want to right now, please. I let my hand drop. I went to the sink and started washing a cup that was already clean, just to have something to do with my hands. Behind me, I heard her close the fridge, sit at the table, and start tapping on her phone as if no one else existed in that space. What time will you be home tomorrow? I asked. I do not know. It depends. We have a meeting with suppliers from out of state. I can pick you up if you want. Thursdays are never that busy at the shop after 6. No need. I will take an Uber. Van, I always pick you up on Thursdays. She looked up from her phone for the first time in the entire conversation. There was no tiredness in those eyes. There was annoyance. The kind of annoyance you have for a dog that will not stop barking. Why are you trying to manage my schedule, Mark? I already told you I do not need it. I can handle things myself. I am not managing your schedule. I am offering you a ride. Well, I do not want it. Thanks. That night, I slept with my back to her for the first time in 5 years of marriage. And at 2 in the morning, I felt the mattress shift. She got up, went into the bathroom, and stayed there for about 20 minutes with the door closed, her phone illuminating her face from under the door. I pretended to be asleep, not because I did not want to know, but because I already knew and preferred not to hear it out loud just yet. The following days were a masterclass in how a woman erases you without raising her voice. She stopped asking how my day was. She stopped laughing when I told her some stupid story about Travis, my buddy from the shop. She stopped touching me for no reason. Those little touches as you pass by that are the invisible glue of a marriage. If I said, I love you before bed, she would answer, uh-huh, and turn over. One time, I said, I love you 3 nights in a row just to see. All 3 times, uh-huh. At the shop, Travis noticed something. Travis is a bald guy in his 40s, tattooed up to his ears, divorced for years, and he has that bitter wisdom that only comes from having messed up big time at least once in his life. One Friday, he saw me staring at my phone for too long. What is up, Mark? You have had a long face for weeks. Nothing, man. Just stuff at home. Stuff at home is what people say when they do not want to say stuff with the wife. Spit it out. So I did. I told him about the inches she moved away, about the phone, about the I am tireds, about Mr. Mitchell, inserted into every conversation like an uninvited guest. Travis wiped his hands on a rag and looked at me intently. Mark, I am going to tell you something, and I do not want you to get mad. When a woman starts treating you like an option, you cannot keep treating her like a priority. That is math, not cruelty. So what do, man? Track her with a GPS? I am not like that. I am not telling you to track her. I am telling you to stop chasing her. Stop picking her up on Thursdays. Stop paying for her Uber on Fridays when she goes out with her friends. Stop waiting up for her with a hot dinner. If she wants to be alone, let her feel what it is really like to be alone. Travis was quiet for a while, cleaning a carburetor with a red rag. Then, without looking at me, he dropped a line that stuck with me. Look, Mark, I went through this same thing 10 years ago with my ex-wife. And what weighs on me the most, what still wakes me up at 3 in the morning, is not that she had an inappropriate relationship. It is how many times I swallowed a small slight, thinking that love was 2 people swallowing things together. And no, love is 2 people taking care of each other. The other thing is just habit. Buddy, and habit can withstand anything until one day it explodes and takes the foundations with it. And what did you do when you understood that? I left quietly. I did not make a scene. I did not beg. I did not give a speech. One day I just packed up my tools, grabbed my clothes, and crashed in my brother's room for 3 months. And I will tell you something weird. Those 3 months in my brother's room, sleeping on an air mattress, were the happiest I had been in the last 5 years of that marriage. Because I was finally sleeping peacefully. I finally did not have to ask for permission to breathe. I thought about that for the rest of the afternoon while I changed the oil in a truck. Asking for permission to breathe. That phrase got stuck in my head and would not leave because it was exactly what I had been doing for months without realizing it. Asking Vanessa for permission to hug her. Asking for permission to pick her up. Asking for permission to feel like we were a married couple. That very afternoon, I started changing things. Small things, nothing dramatic, no letters, no speeches. Pure logistics, as Travis would say. First, I canceled the app that notified me when she left the office. I had installed it years before out of pure affection to have dinner ready for her. Not anymore. Second, I moved my paycheck to an account of my own. We left the joint account for rent, electricity, water, internet. Everything else was separate. Third, and this was the hardest, I stopped waiting up for her. If she got home at 11, she would find me asleep. If she got home at 12, the same. If she did not come home, well, she did not come home. The first night I did this, she arrived at 10:30. She found the house dark, me snoring in the bedroom, and her dinner served in the fridge with a note that said, "Heat it up yourself, love. I am wiped." I woke up when I felt her get into bed with a strange, contained energy. "You are not going to wait up for me anymore?" she asked in the dark. "You said you did not need me to manage your schedule, Van. I am respecting that." Silence. A long silence. The kind where you know there is a brain calculating on the other side. "Okay," she finally said, but it was not okay. She turned over, giving me her back, and for the first time in months, I did not feel bad about it. The following week, something happened that confirmed what I already suspected. It was Saturday, around 11 in the morning. Vanessa was in the shower, and her phone started vibrating on the kitchen table. I was pouring myself a coffee. I am not the type of man who checks phones. I never have been. My dad taught me that if you have to spy to trust, there is nothing left to save. So I did not touch it. But the screen lit up on its own with a notification, and from where I was standing, I could read the entire banner without moving an inch. It was a text message. The contact's name was just an initial and a last name, J. Mitchell, a strange, formal format, like a client's. But the message said, "Same place as the other night. I loved your black dress. Confirm." I stared at the screen until it went dark. I did not touch the phone. I did not need to. I already had everything I needed. I went back to my coffee, took a long sip, and felt something inside me, something that had been trembling for weeks, finally settled down. It was not anger. It was clarity. That cold clarity you feel when you finish a puzzle and understand that the picture was always that, even if you did not want to see it. When she came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, I was still in the kitchen. She gave me that automatic smile that no longer reached her eyes. "Hey, what is up for today?" she asked as she poured herself some juice. "Rachel invited us to dinner," I said. "Next Saturday. A few people will be there, including some of her friends from the gym." I saw her face light up just a little. That spark that you try to hide, but cannot. "Oh, how nice. Who did she invite?" "I'm not sure. Nick and Paula, the neighbors, some friends of Rachel's from the gym. She said they were going to talk about a community event or something." "Oh, look at that. How interesting." And that was it. But I know her. I knew she was already thinking about what to wear. I knew she was already thinking that someone there might know Mr. Mitchell, and she could show off to everyone how close she was to him. And for the first time in months, I knew how I was going to react. And I also knew that that night would be the last night of a life that was already dead. It was just that no one had had the courage to bury it yet. The 6 days between the invitation and the dinner, I spent preparing myself internally. Not with rage, but with something colder, cleaner. I spoke with a lawyer I knew from the shop and asked some general questions about divorce in Arizona. I made copies of my shop's paperwork and put them in a folder that I left in the business's safe. I reviewed my accounts, my savings, what I had and what I did not. I called my mom just to hear her voice, without telling her anything. And on Friday, the day before the dinner, I did something I never thought I would do. I went to look at apartments. A small one in the central Phoenix area with 1 bedroom and a garage. I told the landlord I wanted it for the following Monday. I left a month's deposit in cash. The man gave me a funny look, but did not ask any questions. Landlords do not ask questions when you pay in cash. That night, when Vanessa got home, she found me eating dinner alone in the kitchen. I had left a plate for her on the table. She sat down across from me, picked at her food with a fork, and looked at me as if she were seeing me from a distance. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "You tired?" "A lot of work." "A lot. Good thing there is dinner tomorrow so you can unwind." She nodded, and for a second, just a second, she looked at me with something that resembled guilt. But it was so fleeting I might have imagined it. She grabbed her phone, went to the living room, and did not come back to the kitchen all night. I washed the dishes slowly, and as the water ran, I realized I was not sad anymore. I was calm, and that is what scared me the most. Saturday, 7 in the evening. Rachel's house in Scottsdale, with its well-tended plants, its warm lights, its smell of slow-cooked food. We went in. Vanessa was wearing a black dress I had never seen before. When I saw it on her that afternoon, she explained without me asking, "I bought it yesterday. It was on sale." But I no longer needed explanations. We were greeted with hugs. My mother-in-law was already there, her glass of red wine in hand, as if it were an extension of her arm. Bobby, Rachel's husband, gave me one of those back-patting hugs that says, "Good to see you," and also, "Hang in there, buddy." Bobby and I had always gotten along, though he was one of those guys who teased me about letting Vanessa boss me around too much. That night, he would see he was right, and he would also see he had been wrong for several months. The friends from the gym were a couple, Nick and Paula. He was one of those guys in his 40s who likes to squeeze your hand when he shakes it, as if it were a challenge. She was cheerful, with that slightly too strong friendliness of people who feel they are being watched. We sat down at the table at 8. Rachel had prepared slow-cooked brisket, rice, salad, baked beans, and fresh rolls. The table smelled glorious. Everyone started serving themselves. The conversation flowed from the weather, to Phoenix traffic, to a wedding Rachel had attended last month. And then Nick, with no ill intent, lit the spark. "Hey, Van," he said as he served himself some beans. "The other day at a city event, I saw a Mr. Mitchell, Julian Mitchell, I think. That is not your boss, is it?" Because they mentioned him as a community leader and even gave him an award. Vanessa put on a smile I knew perfectly well, that private, almost intimate smile she wore when she talked about him. "Yes, that is my boss," she said. "He is involved in so many things. I do not know where he finds the time." "Well, he must be a great guy," said Paula. "Men like that are something else. There are hardly any left." "He is in another league," Vanessa said, and for the first time all night, she turned to look at me. The truth is, working with him is a blessing. He never complains, never makes you feel like you are wasting his time, always knows what he wants. When he says 7, it is 7. He is decisive. He does not mince words, does not get lost in sentimentality. I let the silence do its work. I said nothing. I felt my mother-in-law swallow. I saw Rachel glance at Bobby. Bobby looked down at his plate. "Well," I finally said in a calm voice, addressing the table in general, "before we go down that road, I would like to ask for something. Tonight, we are not comparing spouses to third parties, or siblings to siblings, or anything to anything. Let us keep the table clean." Vanessa tilted her head, let out a soft laugh. "Oh, Mark, relax. It is just talk. It is talk that can get uncomfortable," I insisted. "I am just asking." "All right, Captain," she said and raised her glass to me with a fake smile. "Whatever you say." The conversation moved on for about 20 minutes. Bobby told a story about a fire. Rachel talked about a trip she wanted to take to the Grand Canyon. My mother-in-law gave her opinion on a television show. I started to think that maybe the night would end well, that maybe I had exaggerated, that maybe my request had been enough. But then Nick, who was on his third beer, laughed and said to Vanessa, "Hey, but seriously, last Thursday, I saw your boss leaving that new rooftop bar on the 20th floor of the downtown high-rise, the one with the terrace, with a girl who was wearing a really cool black dress. By the way, lucky guy, right?" The entire table turned to look at Vanessa without meaning to. I saw her choke for a second. I saw her hand tremble ever so slightly on her glass. I saw her eyes dart to me and then to her plate. And I saw, because I know her, how she made the decision to preempt the blow, to not let the silence corner her, to throw the first stone before someone could throw one at her. She lifted her chin, looked directly at me, and with that same crooked little smile I had seen thousands of times, she tapped the rim of her glass with her fingernail and said the words I already told you at the beginning. Now that is an old school man, not like what I have at home. She said it loudly. She said it clearly. She said it for everyone to hear. And I, as I have already said, slowly put down my fork, wiped my mouth, and answered, "You know what, Van? I spend my time thinking about things too. For example, I would love to see your sister Rachel sitting in this house. In your place." Bobby let out a laugh smothered in beer. Rachel turned red, but did not stop smiling from behind her fingers. "Marcus," my mother-in-law said, in a tone that was half scandal, half secret approval. Nick's jaw dropped like a fish. Paula did not know where to look. Vanessa turned pale. Truly pale, as if the blood had been drained from her face with a syringe. "Excuse me," she whispered. "What did you just say to me?" "You heard me perfectly," I replied in the same low voice. "You just publicly compared other men in front of our entire family. I just returned the favor. Did you like how it felt?" "Me neither. That is why I asked 20 minutes ago that we not make comparisons. You are being rude." "I am not being rude, Van. I am being precise. You wanted to make a public joke at my expense, and I replied in public. If you wanted this conversation to be private, you should have had it at home. You are making a scene. You made the scene. I just handed you the bill." Her phone, which was face down on the table next to her plate, vibrated hard. The screen lit up for a second, long enough for the banner to be visible to anyone who was looking. And at that moment, we were all looking. I managed to see the words, "Rooftop, same spot. I will wait for you," before she flipped the phone over and shoved it into her purse. Bobby saw the banner. I saw him do the math in his head too. I saw him look at me with a mixture of surprise and respect I had never seen in his eyes before. Rachel saw it too. My mother-in-law saw it and dropped her napkin. "Oh, honey," my mother-in-law said softly. "Oh, my child." "It is nothing," Vanessa blurted out, her voice already cracking. "It is work. You do not understand." "No," I said, without raising my voice. "We do understand. We understand perfectly." I pushed my chair back slowly. I stood up. I did not throw anything. I did not scream. I did not make a soap opera scene. I just stood up, like a man who had already made all his decisions 6 days earlier, when he saw a notification on a phone in the kitchen of his own home. "Rachel, Bobby, thank you for dinner. It was delicious. I am sorry for how it ended. But believe me, this has been simmering for months, and tonight the pot just boiled over." "Mark, do not leave like this," Rachel said, her voice trembling. "Please sit down. I have already had all I am going to eat tonight, sister-in-law." Vanessa jumped up from her chair. "You cannot do this to me here. You cannot leave me in the middle of my sister's dinner party." "Am I leaving you?" I asked, with no trace of anger in my voice. "You left me months ago, Van. I am just leaving the room where no one was left. You are overreacting because of a text message." "I am not overreacting because of a message. I am responding to weeks of inches, to weeks of "I am tired," to a black dress I do not recognize, to messages I did not know existed until a moment ago, to you calling me less of a man than your boss in front of your mother. Van, I put up with a lot. I put up with it because I loved you, but there is a line, and you ran right across it." "Marcus, please," my mother-in-law whimpered. "Think about the marriage." "Stella, with all due respect," I replied, looking her in the eye. "Vanessa already thought about the marriage a while ago. I am just putting on paper what she already decided with her actions." I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. Vanessa reached out to grab my arm, but I pulled it away gently. Not roughly, just firmly. "I will come by for my things at the apartment tomorrow. I will text you when I leave the shop. Please do not be there. It is easier for both of us. Do not leave like this. Please, let us talk. We can talk on Saturday at the Greenpoint Coffee Shop in the historic district at 10 in the morning. For an hour, if you want. If not, then no. But for tonight, I am done with dinner." And I walked out. I did not slam the door. I did not say anything else to anyone. I walked straight out with my back straight, as if I were leaving an office after signing an important contract. I got in my pickup truck, started it, and it was not until I was 3 blocks from Rachel's house that I allowed myself to release the breath I had been holding all night. I did not cry. I was not sad. I was liberated. And that was perhaps the strangest thing of all. The next day, Sunday, I went by the apartment at 2 in the afternoon. I had sent Vanessa a message at 10. "I will be there at 2. Please do not be there." She did not reply. When I arrived, her car was not in the parking lot. I went inside. The house smelled of perfume and reheated food. On the dining table, there was a plate set, 2 glasses, unlit candles, and a handwritten note in her slanted script. "Come back. We can fix this. I will cook you whatever you want. I will stop with the comparisons." I stood in front of that table for a long while, because I will not lie to you. For a second, it hurt. For a second, I thought about sitting down, lighting the candles, and waiting for her to arrive. For a second, I thought that maybe it was worth trying one more time. But then I remembered the banner. I remembered the little smile. I remembered the new black dress. And above all, I remembered my mother-in-law's silence, her saying, "Oh, honey," like someone who recognizes a truth they would rather not see. I folded the note, left it on the plate, and went to the bedroom to pack. In 2 hours, I packed the essentials. Clothes, shoes, my good hand tools, the ones my dad had given me before he died, my papers, a few photos of my mom, my grandfather's watch, my books from the shop, nothing more. I left her the furniture. The fridge, the TV, the decorations, the things we bought together, all hers. You do not take rubble with you when you leave a house that is collapsing. Bobby had told me the night before I left Rachel's house, to call him if I needed help. I called him. He was there in half an hour with his truck, no questions, no speeches, just a couple of cold beers in a cooler and a look that said, "I am here for you, buddy." That is what real friends are like. When we finished loading, I paused at the apartment door. I took my key off my keychain and left it on the dining table, next to Vanessa's note. Not to be dramatic, but because I would not be needing it anymore. I closed the door. We brought the things down. We drove to my new apartment in the central Phoenix area. Bobby helped me carry everything up. When we were done, we sat on the floor of the empty living room with a beer each. "Buddy," Bobby said, looking at the ceiling, "I thought you were the kind of guy who puts up with everything." I was wrong. "I thought so too," I said. "We were both wrong. What are you going to do now?" "Work, rest, live without asking for permission to hug anyone." Bobby laughed. We clinked our cans, and for the first time in months, I felt at home. That night, after Bobby left, I was alone in the empty apartment. There was no bed yet, just an inflatable mattress I had bought on the way. There were no curtains, just the orange glow of the streetlight coming through the window. There were no pictures, no decorations, no scent of Vanessa floating in the air. Just my things, my silence, and me. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and took out my phone. I had 18 messages from her. 18. I read them one by one, slowly, without replying. They started with anger. "I cannot believe what you did." They moved on to negotiation. "Let us talk. I have things to say too." They continued with guilt. "I know I messed up. Forgive me." And they ended with pleading. "Please, Mark, come back. I cannot sleep without you." And you know what I felt reading them? I did not feel triumph. I did not feel revenge. I did not feel that morbid pleasure you think you will feel when the person who hurt you finally comes looking for you. I felt tired. An old, accumulated tiredness, the kind that sleep does not fix. The tiredness of having carried a marriage for months that only one of us was carrying. I turned off the phone, placed it face down on the floor, and lay down on the inflatable mattress, staring at the textured ceiling of my new apartment. And I had a thought that surprised me. For the first time in months, I do not have to pretend I am okay, because I am finally alone, and being alone is okay. I slept deeply that night, like I had not slept in a year. The following Saturday, at 10 in the morning sharp, I arrived at the Greenpoint coffee shop. Vanessa was already there. She was wearing a beige sweater, no makeup, her hair pulled back. The version of her I had loved for years. The vulnerable version, the human version, the one she knew how to bring out when she wanted something. I sat across from her and ordered an Americano. She already had one in front of her, half finished. "You came," she said. I said I would. "Marcus, forgive me. What I said at the dinner was stupid. It was a bad joke. I had had 2 glasses of wine, and I was trying to be funny, and it all came out wrong. Van, it was not a bad joke. It was a truth spoken out loud, and I had already been hearing it in your silences for months." "That is not true." "Yes, it is true. And it was not just what you said. There are messages, Van. There is a Thursday on the 20th floor of the downtown high-rise. There is a black dress I did not know. I am not a detective. I did not follow you. I just have eyes." She fell silent. She did not deny it. She did not cry. She just stared at her coffee, as if the words she needed to find were in there. "I will leave him," she finally said. "The job, the boss, everything. I will resign on Monday. I will cut off all communication. I will go to therapy. I will do whatever you ask, Mark, anything, but do not go." I looked at her, and honestly, for a split second, I believed her. Not because she was convincing, but because I wanted to believe her. Because you do not stop loving someone in 7 days, even if you know you have to. Love does not turn off with a switch. It dries up slowly, like a plant you stop watering. But then I thought of something Travis had told me that week while we were fixing the chassis of an old Nissan. He said, "Mark, a woman who humiliates you in public does not do it by mistake. She does it because she has already buried you in her head. Her mistake was thinking you would not get up from the burial." "Van," I said, "I appreciate what you are saying. I really do. And I want you to know I do not hate you. I could not hate you even if I wanted to. But I already buried myself in that house for months. I already put up with everything a man can put up with. And the day you compared me to your boss in front of your mom and your sister, I understood something I cannot unlearn. You do not see me anymore. And I do not want to live the rest of my life with a woman who has to make an effort to see me. I can change. You can, but not for me. Change for yourself. Change for the next person. I am not going to be the testing ground for that new version of you." The tears finally came. They were not manipulative tears. They were real, the kind you cannot fake. Those hurt. I am not going to lie. Those hit me hard. But I did not move. I did not take her hand. I did not say, "Let us try." I passed her my napkin, finished the rest of my coffee, and said, "I am going to file for divorce on Monday. We will do it amicably, without lawyers fighting, without arguments over things. I will keep my shop and what was mine before we got married. You can stay in the apartment until the lease is up in October and keep what was yours. The furniture is yours. What we bought together, we will split down the middle, no problem. Does that seem fair?" She nodded, unable to speak. "I wish you the best, Van. I really do. I hope you find what you are looking for, and I hope you take care of it this time." I stood up. I put a $20 bill on the table to cover both coffees and walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. The months that followed were strange. Not bad, just strange. Like when you get a cast removed after a long time and the skin underneath feels soft and pale. The shop went on. On Sundays, I started having breakfast with my mom again, something I had not done in years because Vanessa always had an excuse. I started boxing twice a week at a neighborhood gym, just to sweat out the sadness. Travis and Bobby became my two pillars. We would go out for burgers on Thursdays at a little stand in South Phoenix and laugh at any stupid thing until our stomachs hurt. Vanessa tried to contact me several times in the first 2 months. Long messages, short messages, calls I did not answer. She even stopped by the shop once. Travis handled it. He told her very politely, "Ma'am, Marcus is not here, and if he were, he could not see you either." She did not come back. I found out through my mother-in-law, who I still spoke to occasionally, the lady was not at fault, that Vanessa had ended things with Mr. Mitchell 2 weeks after our separation. And I heard from Bobby that Mr. Mitchell had never had any intention of leaving his wife. Surprise, surprise, right? The person who felt betrayed and the person in the middle ended up in the same situation without knowing it. Life has its ironies. The divorce was finalized in January. It was clean, fast, with no visible hard feelings, though we both knew they were there underneath. The day we signed the papers at the lawyer's office, she had dark circles under her eyes and was thinner. She looked at me as if she wanted to say something, but did not. I did not either. Sometimes silence is the only decent way to say goodbye. In March, I met Beth. She worked at a pharmacy near the shop. She was 34, had an 8-year-old daughter, and had been divorced for 3 years. We met because I went to buy some bandages after cutting myself on a piece of sheet metal. She cleaned my hand right there with a patience that surprised me and only charged me for the bandages. I did not ask for her number that day. I asked for it the 3rd time I went, after I had invented 3 excuses to go back. With Beth, things were different from the start. Not because she was perfect, but because I was not the same man. I no longer asked for affection like a beggar asking for change. I no longer expected someone to make me feel seen. I already saw myself. And it turns out, that is what changes everything. Last Saturday was Beth's daughter's birthday, 9 years old. We took her for burgers and then to the movies. The girl's name is Jenna, and she has a habit of squeezing my hand when she gets scared in a movie, as if it is the most normal thing in the world. I let her squeeze. When we left the theater, Beth looked at me with that calm gaze she has, the kind that asks for nothing but gives everything, and said, "Thanks for coming, Marcus." It means a lot to her. To me too, I said. That night, after I dropped her off at her house, I sat in my pickup truck before starting the engine. I took out my phone. I had a message from a number I had not saved, but I recognized it. "Hi, Mark. I know I should not be writing, but I passed by the shop today and saw you laughing with Travis. It has been a long time since I have seen you laugh like that. It made me happy, and it also made me sad. I wanted you to know that I was wrong about everything. That what I said that night was the worst thing I have ever said to anyone in my life, and that I regret it every day. Take care, V. I stared at the message for a long time. And you know what I did? I did not reply. I did not delete it. I left it there, like a memory you keep not to suffer, but so you do not forget. Because there is one thing I learned in all of this, and I will leave it with you as a gift before I close the story. You do not break when someone fails you. You break when you stay where you have been failed. The day that woman said, "Now that is a real man, not like what I have at home," in front of my entire family, I had two options: hang my head one more time or stand up for the last time. I chose to stand up. And I chose, even though it hurt, to leave. Sometimes love is not proven by staying. Sometimes self-love is proven by leaving in time. I started the truck, put on an old country song on the stereo, and drove home with the windows down, feeling the cool Phoenix night air on my face, knowing that for the first time in a long time, I was the sole owner of my own life. And that, my friends, is the most valuable thing a man can have. Comment: this story really touched me on a personal level. I keep reflecting on how crucial self-respect is in our relationships. You deserve to be treated with genuine kindness and respect every day. Setting healthy boundaries is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves. Sometimes, choosing to walk away is the kindest decision you can make. Healing truly starts when we stop settling for less than we deserve. Taking responsibility for your own peace can change your entire life. Be gentle and patient with yourself during that process. Your inner calm and happiness are always worth protecting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.